Hey guys, how you doing? This is JP Sarricolea coming to you once again with another episode of Age of Heroes, my podcast. And welcome every person that is listening, supporting me in this channel. Thank you very much for your support, whether you're watching in YouTube, whether you're listening and iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, Castbox, Spotify, TuneIn, any place you're listening. Thank you very much. Thank you for your support. So now let's get into it. Because definitely I want to talk about this today. As you know, last week there was a lot of controversy in regards to Mark Hamill and Star Wars. When you think about Star Wars and you think about Mark Hamill, they go hand in hand. They're definitely like water and sugar. They go together for a lot of our fans. We love Star Wars. I'm a big fan of Star Wars, like most people in this world. I think 99% of the people love Star Wars. Well, the other 1% perhaps, they just never heard of it. I don't know. But definitely, I love Star Wars. And of course, everything that has to do with Star Wars creates a lot of controversy. And sometimes that controversy can go one way or another. And of course, throughout the last weekend, there was a lot of controversy about it. There were a lot of different sides. Of course, every time Mark Hamill's opened his mouth and says something, is going to create some controversy, and it seems that he loves it. He loves the controversy, and whether he's dissatisfied with one thing or not, he does all kind of things. Of course, he does things. He has political views. I know some people don't like Mark Hamill expressing his political views. I'm not against it. I can tell you one thing. I think every person, whether they're actors or not, they have a right as citizens to express their opinion in matters of politics, particularly here in North America, where we believe in freedom of speech. Is pretty much part of our Constitution. We're protected by it, and we believe in that democracy that allows us to express, whether other people agree or not, how we feel. And that's a great part of the American Constitution. That's a great part of being Americans. And he has, of course, his opinions in a lot of things, and I respect all of them. I have no problem with it. They can express whatever. They don't lose, that right just because they're, acting on TV. They just paid actors. They act the part. Doesn't mean that they are the part. So in other words, Mark Hamill act the part, but he is not Luke Skywalker. He's just the person that represents Luke Skywalker, or did it in the films for many years, in the original trilogy, and of course now in the latest movies where he's acting, of course, as an older character. But he's just an actor, and that's all it is. But, Mark Hamill, he's Mark Hamill, and I respect him and love him for that. It doesn't mean that I agree with all his point of views or everything he says. But last week, he was invited, and I'll have some links for you so you can read, so you can know. Maybe you heard all that, but I'll link some stuff for you, where he talks like he was invited to the late night show with Seth Meyers. I really don't care much about this show. I don't watch it. I really don't care much about it, but I have watched some of the excerpts or some of the parts on YouTube. So he was invited. Of course, he has something that he's doing, a drama called Nightfall for the History Channel. So that's what he's doing right now. But he was also asked, of course, Star Wars is the thing right now because, of course, we got the reveal after celebration of the upcoming things. Of course, the next movie. So, of course, it's in everybody's mind. Everybody's talking about it. So, of course, Mark Hamill was invited. And I can tell you one thing. If you watch some of the interviews of Mark Hamill is a very cool person. He's funny. He's very talkative. He loves to talk about a lot of things, and, he is the type of person that you have to be careful when you send him, because he's going to spill the beans. That's for sure. He spilled the beans a lot, and but he's fun to watch. He makes things. He makes a lot of jokes. He's very funny. He's a bit of a comedian, of course. He's the Joker too. So he's the voice of the Joker. So definitely he does that part. He has a wild side that a lot of people love, and you love him for that. But he was asked about it, and he mentioned this. And I'm gonna read here from this website. It says, I love to tease the fans online. It drives them crazy. I'm sure Disney's not happy about it, but what are they going to do? Fire me? It's too late. So that was very interesting. And of course, a lot of fans, they went on their side and said, yeah, we love because he speaks his mind. And definitely he does speak his mind. But definitely, I want to use this today. It was funny. It's an interesting thing because technically he's already fired. He's already dead. So it's not like they're gonna, continue on. He's not a character. He speaks his mind. He has the backing of the fans. But I want to ask this question today: is Mark Hamill right about Star Wars? And this is a very important question because it really gathers a lot of people and a lot of differences of opinion. I like Mark Hamill, like I said. I do like the way he is. I like his persona. I like him as Luke Skywalker, not because there was a choice, because he was the only Luke Skywalker that I remember growing up. He was, as a kid, when the movies were out, and he was just who he was, and I love him. But I gotta be honest with you. I remember when I was a kid and I watched, of course, the Star Wars films. I went to the theater to watch, and I remember watching the Return of the Jedi. The other two, I was just a baby. I don't remember those. But I watched them, of course, as soon as they were available. Watch it in VHS, even before the VHS, when you got the old ways, the old things that you watch, kind of like the old camera things, I forgot how they call them. The old format, I watch him there too. I remember that even at my church, when I was a kid, they used to play it for some reason, which was fun. I loved it. I remember I was probably a little kid, probably 6, 7 years old, and they were playing them in the church, and it was like the Bible school, in summer or something like that. I remember that. It was very fun. It was cool. That was a cool church when I was a kid. But I remember that, and I'm watching that, and I'm looking through all this. I can tell one thing. As a kid, I was never really a fan of Luke. But I was a fan of, in this case, Solo. I love Solo. I really like him. I don't know. He was this character. Han was definitely different, and he was the respecter of a lot of things. He was the bad dude, the bad guy. So I would like this interaction that he has, of course, with Princess Leia. He was definitely, for me, the character that I care the most on the Star Wars. To me, Luke looked like a child. He acted like a child, very mature, very headstrong, very, he changed his mood. He did what he thought. He was stubborn. He was just like that. And of course, you saw throughout the 3 movies a process where he does a lot of stubborn things at first. And he almost is waved by the dark side to do the wrong things, to kill his own father. But ultimately, he snaps out of it, and he, he's able to overcome. And of course, the ending, of course, of that film. But he was a character like that. Keep from the first movie, from The Last Hope, and I'm using the names that were given after the prequels, of course. The Last Hope, definitely, he's the type of character that he is headstrong. He does what he wants to do. He's not really concerned as much of anything. He lets his emotions lead them. And it seems that even on the sequel, then when you see that on the prequels, you see that his father, who becomes Darth Vader, Anakin, they all have the same type of temper. It's like it runs in the family. Like the Skywalkers are the type of people that are headstrong, because even when in this case, Anakin was a little kid, he just did whatever he wanted to do when he was riding those pods. He just, he just was really headstrong and very stubborn, and he just wanted to do his thing, and nobody could really, not even the mother could stop him to do what he wanted to do. So you can see the character that runs in the family, all the Skywalkers. And when you go through the process, even Princess Leia, who is also a Skywalker, you can see they're all headstrong. They're very passionate. They're good people, good-hearted, but also they are very strong and stubborn, and they do things the wrong way. And in life, people are like that. Some people are very stubborn, and sometimes it runs in the family. I can tell you one thing from my family. The people in my family, they're very strong in the sense of that we are very stubborn people. My mother, my father, my brother, my sister, myself, and the people that I know from my mother's side, from my father's side, they're very stubborn in their ways, and we're headstrong. And but that's who we are, and there's nothing wrong with being who you are. My wife, she's a little more timid in her ways, and although it doesn't mean that her family's timid. But we're different people. They're different characters. So a lot of people really didn't like The Last Jedi, and I'm going to The Last Jedi now, because they say that Mark Hamill, in this case, the Luke Skywalker, acted out of character when he wanted to kill his son. His nephew. and I'm going to get into deep waters now, and maybe this is going to get murky, but stick with me, stick around so we can really determine exactly how I feel about the whole thing and the reason why, a lot of people dislike the character or dislike The Last Jedi or the new trilogy because they think that everything is to be deconstructed and out of character. And I disagree with that statement. And I'll tell you why I disagree. Because Mark Hamill, in this case Luke Skywalker, has always been the same as a character over time, over the years. Throughout the first trilogy, he was stubborn. It was the last minute that he changed his mind. He snapped out of it and he was able to do the right thing. That doesn't mean that the entire of the movie he doesn't do wrong and he does stubborn things. Even on the prequels, this is handled. His father was the same. To the point that even Yoda was afraid to really, give the kid a chance because they knew that there was a dark side in him and it was a good side. Ultimately, Obi-Wan Kenobi had to take the responsibility of raising this Padawan and definitely give him the chance. And a lot of people say, well, how is it that the Obi-Wan Kenobi dies doing the right thing, but, in this case, Luke Skywalker is having a hard time doing it. But I think they're two different characters with two different personas. From the start, if you go back to the history of Luke, he's always been very stubborn, and he sometimes acts before he thinks. He does things without even sometimes considering the consequences until later. Now, Obi-Wan Kenobi is a different persona. It has a different personality, different arc. He's always been a soldier, as we know from the beginning, from the prequels, when he was just a Padawan. He's always a person that follows instruction. That's his personality. He's not the type of person that deviates and changes or is stubborn. He's not. He's never been stubborn. From the same stories, from the prequels, we can see the type of person that he's just a perfect soldier. He's the type of person that doesn't question authority, doesn't question anything. He just does what he's been told to do, and he follows that. And of course, that really leads in the way he is in his life. Like I said, in life, people are different. But doesn't mean just because you get older, because people are saying, well, now he's older, he should be wiser. The bottom line is this: just because you're older doesn't mean that you're wiser. Because if that was the case, if every person as get older, yes, as we get older, we get more knowledge, we become wiser in certain things, but necessarily doesn't mean that the core part of who we are, the elements that make us who we are, makes us the wisest person in the room. Because it's not, it's not. Because if that was the case, believe me, and I'm talking as an American here living in America, then we will live in a perfect country with a perfect world. Then politicians will not fight with each other. Because when you look at at the Senate, or you look at the representatives, senators of our country, of every part of the country, people above their 50, 60, 70 years old, you would say, well, they're full of wisdom because of their age. And all they know, but they all make dumb decisions. And as you can see whether they're Democrats or whether they're Republicans, they all make stupid decisions. And you see how messy the life is. And it, not only in this country, but in every country of the world. If that was the case, then the world would be a better place. So just because people are older doesn't mean that they're wiser. And just because, they snap and sometimes make mistakes doesn't mean that they're bad people. Just because the truth of the matter is, as you can see in The Last Jedi, Luke doesn't kill Kylo. He thought about it and he felt ashamed because thinking that way. In that moment, he was overtaken by the dark side that has always been part of him. But he snapped out of it. But it was too late because in this case, his nephew, Kylo, had the wrong impression of the uncle. He saw things wrong in the wrong way. But ultimately, the movie is about choice. You make a choice. Ultimately, Kylo is guilty of his own choices. The same way, Luke is guilty of his own. Every person is guilty of their own. I think what I like about the film in that sense is that it's really a more down-to-earth image of these characters. I know a lot of people like to idolize characters and we want to see the best of Luke Skywalker. And even Mark Hamill acts and talks and sometimes trolls, a lot of what people are saying because he would like to see a better reflection of who Luke Skywalker is. But I think he fails to understand himself. And I disagree with that in theory. I disagree because I don't think he fully understands who Luke is. And a lot of people are going to hate me for this. I'm going to say, well, he's the one that acted the part. He knows more than anybody else. That's not true. He is an actor. Like I said in the beginning, as an actor, he's paid to perform. doesn't mean that he is the actor, he is the person. Yeah, he is the one that embodied the person. But to me, like I said before, he was never like the best part. He was given the chance. I'm sure the other actor could have done it and it would be the same. Or, but, I'm not saying that Mark Hamill is not a bad actor. He's a bad actor because he's a good actor. And I love him as a character because all I remember. But he was given the chance. He was very young and he took it and he performed, and the movie was great because it was not Luke persona what really enticed people to Star Wars. It was the entire universe. It was everything, the story that really enticed everybody. Like I said before, every time I remember, what I remember the most about Star Wars as a kid was, of course, Han Solo and Princess Leia, and their relationship was very funny. Chewbacca, which I love very much, and of course Darth Vader. And those are the things I really care a lot about the movies. And Luke Skywalker, yeah, was part of it, but it was not like the best thing that ever happened to the film, in my opinion, because he was a stubborn child. He was always stubborn till the end. Of course, he did the right thing in the end, which is always a good thing in any story. But, to be honest, it's like a lot of people are saying, and now you go online and people are saying, well, he is the voice of the Star Wars fans. He is speaking for ourselves. Well, he's not speaking for me. And when people say, well, he's speaking for true fans, I'm a true fan. Like I said before, I grew up in the same time the movies were out. Yes, the third one is the one that I remember well as a kid watching in the movie theater. The other two I don't remember because I didn't go to the movie theater. But I watch him, when at time the opportunity came, I watch him like everything else. And I made it was, to me, it was a tradition at home for us to watch Star Wars. I think it was Christmas. We always watch every Christmas. It was traditional in my house to watch the trilogy all back to back at home with my dad because he loved it so much. So it was traditional and we loved it. It was New Year's, so Christmas, after the Christmas day after Christmas, we watched the entire series back to back. I don't think he's speaking for the fans or for all the fans. A lot of people are throwing so much hate into the Last Jedi because they don't understand it. And you know what? You don't have to like it. I'm not saying that you need to like it. But when you go back to the originals and when you look in back to back, you realize that actually my least favorite in one extent is, in this case, the Empire Strikes Back. I like the beginning of the Empire Strikes Back, but I'm just not a crazy about the ending because, of course, it was pretty much built towards the Return of the Jedi. It was not it's not my favorite one because it was technically an intermission between the Last Hope and the Return of the Jedi. It's technically the movie that kind of becomes the bridge between those two. So I feel that in many ways, the Return of the Jedi, well, in this case, this new movie, The Last Jedi, is a bridge between The Force Awakens and, of course, The Rise of Skywalker. So we might not understand a lot of what's happening here yet. But I think the next movie will determine and will really finalize the vision, not necessarily from Rian Johnson or J.J. Abrams, but the whole vision that the whole team that is behind Star Wars has been from the beginning. I personally believe that they're building a universe and making it bigger as they go. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because I don't think that a person owns Star Wars. Mark Hamill doesn't own Star Wars. Disney doesn't own Star Wars. Although they are the ones paying the bills. The fans don't own Star Wars. Star Wars is an entity in itself. And I think it's for every person that embraces it as it is. If you call yourself a fan, but you don't like, or at least you're not open to change, then you're not truly a fan. You only are a fan of nostalgia. Love the nostalgia feel of those three movies, how they make you feel. And you can stick with them. Nothing wrong with that. Just keep watching them. There's nothing wrong. You can do it time and time again. But this is something that is evolving into something fresh and new for other generations. And I like the fact that they're actually utilizing ideas, although they make on canon a lot of the things that happen with the comic books. They said that there was no longer canon. They are going back to the comic books and taking the ideas back again to the drawing board and utilizing it in these new movies and in the new direction and the new series and the new games. All of that, they are reapplying it. And it's good because it really shows that in many ways they are understanding now that they made a mistake by just scrapping all of that and just canceling all of that and saying that it was void. But now they're saying, wait a minute, I think there were great ideas here. We can take them back and reapply them and see what we can do. You know, franchises are going to go up, and sometimes they're going to hit they pass a threshold, but sometimes they're going to hit a plateau, and they're going to stick in that plateau for a while. But how can we go forward? How can we move forward? And I think that should be the part. If you want to relive the Skywalker, the original saga, then by all means relive it. But to think that it's going to be repeated, because sometimes fans want the same thing time and time again, it's really bad. Because to be honest with you, I wasn't crazy about the prequels, but I accept them as they were. And now I hear people saying, oh, the prequels are better than these movies. And I'm sorry, I don't think so. Personally, I don't. The prequels, I think, were the lowest point. But they said a lot of things and answered a lot of questions from the original trilogy. They answered a lot of questions that needed to be answered. Might not be the answer that we were looking for, but they were the answers that were given, and we need to accept that. Now, this is a moving forward from that original, which is over, 40 years now? We're moving forward, so we need to take this and move to the next thing. Once this is done, then it will be another door open for the next thing, for the next generation, and I'm looking forward to that as well, because I want to see this universe as expansive as it can be, as big, with so many new characters and different takes, and of course turn of events. It's something that makes anything, in my opinion, makes anything unique and wonderful. But what is your opinion? I definitely like Mark Hamill. I love him. He can be crazy, and sometimes I disagree with his ways. I don't think that it's a bit. Sometimes I get tired of him. They're riling the people up. It seems like he enjoys riling people up, and people fall for it. They constantly fall for it, and they're like going and saying that he's the voice. I don't think he's the voice of Star Wars. He doesn't really represent. He was an actor like everybody else. He's the most outspoken one, but there are many people out there many actors that you can ask, and they might not be considered about the whole thing, but at least they understand that as a franchise needs to evolve, times start changing, and they need to evolve, and they need to move, and they need to change things and adapt to the new generation, because like the trailer says, every generation has a legend, and I think people still need heroes, and every time, every year, every generation needs a new hero for that generation. So I think this is what it is, and we have to live with it. So again, what is your opinion? I would like to hear it. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification button so you're reminded of the next video. If you're listening to the podcast through iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, Castbox, TuneIn, Spotify, please share that with your friends. You can do that in social media. You can follow me in social media. You follow me on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. The links are down below. I share a lot of stuff throughout the week. And please consider supporting me financially. Without your financial support, there's no way I can continue on with this channel and with the podcast. So please consider supporting me. Any amount, whether it's $1, $2, $3, $5 a month, will really help me out. So once again, God bless you. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you again. Bye-bye.